I look like a fucking sewer rat with my hair like this. Goodness gracious. Like I've noticed like in all the interviews I've tried giving, like I looked like shit throughout all of them.
I kind of do too. I mean, I just threw on this shirt and this hat. I mean, I've been, I got a haircut too, so it's like, the
Mm.
long hair is no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, I've not for the past like year, so I've been
Oh
growing
wow,
this
I went
puppy
about
out.
6 months. I went about 6 months with my haircut.
Lord. You got like the whole
So
like Anthony Fantano 7 out of 10 like vibe going on with like your entire outfit.
that's fair. No, yeah, it's because I don't know if you know the New York Yankees general manager George Steinbrenner. He's a very famous man. He kind of had this rule for the Yankees when he owned it. It's like you can't have long hair, you can't have facial hair. So that's basically like my house. Like we can't. Like my mom's like every time my hair is too long, it's like you need a haircut. Even like now I have my mustache. It's like it's only a matter of time before I have to shave it. So yeah, no, I'm trying to keep the expression of myself just keep because I don't know when I don't have facial hair, I just look really young. Um,
Lord help me.
so
Lord help me,
yeah,
dude.
I probably lose about 3 or 4 years with the mustache off. So I'm trying to keep it a little longer so I can, you know, pass for a little older.
Goodness gracious. I'm gonna start like the intro because I've been like recording for I think a couple minutes. I just want to get into
That's fine.
conversation.
Do your
All
stuff.
right.
Do your
I am
stuff.
here with the now legendary Bazz Reviews. Definitely one of my favorite creators as of recently. And I want to harp on a recent interview you did with Rough Criminal. So you said you reviewed music. Do you mind elaborating on that?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate you giving me a platform. Um, but I review music. I don't really have like too much of a crazy methodology. I just kind of pick albums out that I think are interesting. I'll look on sites like Album of the Year, Best Ever Albums, just see what like critics like Fantano are reviewing, Pitchfork. I'm always interested to see what they give the
Mm-hmm.
best new music seal. And that's really all it is. And then I'll sit down, listen to those albums, I'll write my thoughts on them, and then usually I turn that into a video called well, it's a series of videos called Months in Review. That's been going on for about 2 or 3 years now since I, kind of first started Bazz Reviews, and that's really what I started it out as Bazz Reviews, I suppose, because did I think that I would get an interview with someone like Rough Criminal? No, I mean it's just you just sort of you start out small and then you just go big. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, I wasn't expecting to interview people, musicians, other content creators. But it's just kind of I guess evolved into this larger than life thing where it's now video essays, interviews, and reviews all in one channel.
Yeah, because I've been doing YouTube for a good 5 years now. I've been on the platform since I was in sixth grade. Like literally, I've seen the platform like I saw like Filthy Frank rise in popularity and literally like die within the span of my entire YouTube career. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy, like to see how like the shift in like content within the past 5 years with like edgy and like more like sophisticated humor and like like the I guess what would I say? It's like the sterilization of YouTube content.
oh, and I
And
agree wholeheartedly. I feel like just comedy in general is just becoming, I don't really know, just have you just noticed that things just aren't really like as like funny or as shocking as they used to be?
yeah.
Especially on like, Saturday Night Live, you watch like other YouTubers, it's like most of the things that they say are not really like pushing the envelope very much, and it's kind of
Mhm.
sad, because to your point, I too kind of watched, Filthy Frank kind of rise and fall. I watched H3H3 kind of rise and fall. Of course, they're still around, but I don't think Ethan Klein is nearly as funny as funny as he used to be. Wow. I was
Mhm.
hoping my voice wouldn't do that, but you know what? It happens. It's life.
Bro.
I still have the voice of a child, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I mean like we all have our moments when it comes to like voice cracks and everything.
Well, mine are so bad. Like, yeah, I'm just recording a voiceover the other day, and I probably have about 20 in the span of about 15 minutes. I'm like, come on, today
Yeah.
today is the day it had to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Cuz like I'm a singer, so I am like no stranger to having voice cracks at the worst fucking time. Like I remember in my 7th grade year, I had my first ever solo for chorus. It was abysmal, dude. Like
it's a tough time. It's a really
it,
tough
cause
time.
my voice was like obviously like still like developing, but I got up stage, and I was like about to sing, and then I'm just like over here like like literally into the microphone. I like go. I think it was like the what song was it? It was Do you know that Disney short Lava?
Yes, I do. It's what movie was it from? I'm trying to remember.
It
I feel
was.
like I remember seeing it in theaters, but I can't really remember which one it's
It
for.
might have
So
been.
whoever knows, will have to put it down in the
It might have
comments.
been Moana, maybe, or is that like a little too
Not
tongue in
a bad
cheek?
guess, kind of similar like vibes, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Because remember, Piper was for Finding Dory, and Piper was
Right.
great. I thought Piper was great, but
Better than the movie, Finding Dory's.
honestly, yeah. Okay, let's talk about how disappointing that was. Because I saw Finding Dory. It was actually my first ever date that I ever went on. Was seeing Finding Dory, and it was just not as good as I hoped it would be. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just disappointing.
It's just really underwhelming. That's why I feel like this is kind of a hot take, honestly. And I was kind of talking about this with some people the other day. I think that Sony Pictures Animation is going to be better than Pixar in the next 5 or 10 years because what they're doing with their content is just incredible. I mean, even recently with the Mitchells versus the Machines, I saw that on Netflix. Just an incredible film. I think their animation is great.
Yeah.
The storytelling is great. I feel like Pixar is kind of losing, excuse me, their originality.
Oh
Like it
yeah.
just even Soul, while it was good, I just didn't really you know think it was anything like mind blowing.
I
So
agree.
I don't know. I just feel like what Sony Pictures is doing with their stuff, even with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that's one of my favorite Spider-Man films, and it's just I don't know. It just really has a lot of like character and heart and charm in it that I don't think you can find in a lot of other animated movies out there. So props to Sony Pictures for really getting their act together after something as universally hated as the Emoji Movie.
Yeah.
Um,
That was like literally like the biggest 180 in like cinematic like stuff. Like it literally
yeah,
like I remember seeing Spider-Verse in theaters and just having my jaw on the floor because it's honestly one of my favorite animated movies. Like
I would agree. I
hands
mean, it's
down.
just really a wonderful looking film. I mean, I don't know what techniques they use, but I mean, it's just beautiful. It's just like
Yeah.
I didn't think that animation could be in that kind of space that they did, but they made it work, and it looks just really cool. I'm
Hmm.
glad that it got the praise that it deserved.
Yeah, and Mitchell's versus the Machines is really good as well. It's just a fun movie, I'd say. Like nothing really
Absolutely.
more than that in my opinion. It was just a
Yeah,
fun movie.
I would agree with that. I actually really liked it. I feel like it's like kind of an accurate depiction of like family life in 2021, I guess, with a lot more screens involved. These kind of estranged parental child relationships. I think that really was a very bold tale of them to tell. I mean, it's been told a bazillion times, but I feel like again by 2021 standards, I feel like it's just all the more relevant to
Yeah.
what's happening in society right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because like with those type of stories, there's like obviously like a level to where it could become like pandering to like a certain crowd, like oh
Right.
technology bad or whatever. But I think the way it handled it kind of like highlights like the use of modern technology in a kind of a good and bad way, because it speaks about like how like the technology growth has been very beneficial to society, like with the whole artificial intelligence. But it also talks about oh gosh robot invasion beep blorp beep blorp.
Right. Yeah, no, that's really true to your point. They're not really, saying like, "Oh, technology good, technology bad." It's like they're willing to take both sides on it. And I feel like that was a pretty unique idea of the screenwriters and just people that were involved on the film. I don't know who wrote it, but whoever did a pretty fucking good job. I
Fun
know,
little
like,
fact: Phil Lord and Chris Miller of the Lego Movie fame.
right. I knew they were like tied to it like somehow, but like I know the guy who was like the creative director on Gravity Falls directed the movie or
Alex
something. So
Hirsch, yeah,
yeah.
love Alex Hirsch. Like his stuff, like with it's just amazing. Like fantastic animator and like just creator, visionary. But like yeah, Phil Lord and Chris Miller were basically like a part of the whole like process of like writing it and stuff. Like because they also wrote parts of Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, I think.
Yeah, they've written a lot of stuff. I mean, they've got a great little thing going there, the Lord Miller duo.
Yeah, they've always been great ever since like their Clone High days. Like they've been doing some great stuff. Like the reason I started a YouTube channel excuse me, was because I wanted to be a director when I got older, into the movie. But then I realized, that dream kind of crumpled up on me, and I just liked having a platform for myself, because like you can see like a shift in my content like throughout the years. Like 5 years ago it was more movie oriented, while as now it's a lot more music oriented, and then like even more now it's just like about myself as a person more than anything, because I like just expressing who I am through any artistic medium, whether that be interviews, podcasts, and other different sorts of stuff like that. Like, and I think like with your channel, I could see you're putting a lot of yourself into it as well, like through the stuff you review and everything.
Yeah, I try to. I try not to be like super technical because I used to be like kind of pretentious back in the day. Like I would always be like, "Oh, this music is objectively good," or "Oh, this music's objectively bad." I just feel like I at the time I was just really naive. Like saying that just really like you know just I don't really know invalidates the individual experience with music because it's not like we're all gonna have the same shared experience of an album, a song, an artist that another person does. So I think you really have to kind of take that with a grain of salt, which is
Oh
why
yeah.
you know in about 60 to 90 seconds of a review, I try to make it you know accessible. I don't want to be like Fantano where it's like 10 minutes long because I feel like I'm kind of following what Rev Criminal does in a sense. Like, I don't want the review to be like way too long. I kind of just want to be like, okay, here's a little bit about the artist, my thoughts, what songs I like, what songs I didn't like, conclusion, move on, next review.
I like elaborating because I'm like a writer, so I
And
just
same here. I think just elaboration is important. And I mean, if like on sites like Album of the Year, like yeah, I would probably go a little bit deeper there than I would in like a YouTube video because you know, there's more eyes on the channel than there are on my album of the year page. So I can kind of just like write deeper thoughts on, a project. Whereas with YouTube, I try to keep it pretty short. And that's kind of been like the history of Bazz Reviews, even when I did podcasts back in the day. Um, reviews would be anywhere from, I guess, like, again, 60 to 90 seconds, 2 minutes max.
yeah. Like, didn't you start Bazz Reviews as like a website, then you switched it over to YouTube?
I did, yeah. So I mean, I can go into my process and just like the kind of history of you if you want.
I mean, I'm just curious mainly just because like you built a pretty decent platform for yourself on your website, and then you switched over to YouTube kind of like relatively late, I would say, like into your game.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Um, it was definitely a tough decision for me. I think I sort of started it, kind of on a whim, I guess. Like it was my junior year of high school. I loved writing. I joined the school's newspaper staff that year. The first thing I ever wrote was like an album review. I think it was a Blood Orange album that had dropped.
Oh
That
man, yeah. I remember when that
yeah.
came
So
out
that was
actually,
that.
yeah.
That was kind of like the first time I'd ever really looked at music critically, and I was sort of like, hey, this is a really cool thing. Like, what if I, started my own things? I had been watching Anthony Fantano for a while, and then I got into guys like Alpha Media, Polyphonic,
Hmm.
Volksgeist, Karsten Rundquist, Scott the Woz. All of those guys are really, um, you know, just formative of how I wanted to start my own platform. And I just kind of sat down one December morning. I'm just like, fuck it, let's do it. So that became the blog. Um, and that sort of went on for a while. And, I had podcasts to go along with it. So I was like, hey, I have a blog, so why not have podcasts in the mix? And then this last year, it was definitely harder. This was really like the year I started to really care a little bit more about it, I guess. And the podcast hadn't really been performing well, and neither really had the blog posts. Of course, there have been, some, you know, pieces that I've done that have, gotten a fair amount of traction. I did an interview with Rit Momney, um, crazy to think, almost a year and a half ago, and that just took off. I think there's probably, I don't even know the last time I checked it, maybe like 5,000 people have seen it. So I mean that's great, but at the end of the day, I just if I wanted to be serious about it, like I couldn't just do podcasts and blog posts for the rest of my days and kind of just expect it to blow up. Like, you know, I'm in college now. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm no like, you know, old sage, right? It's like, if this is really something that I could do in the future, like why not just start a platform that could see more people. So that's why I ended up choosing YouTube. And I know I'm late to the game. I know it's like, but again, it's not like success can really be found overnight. Like, I would post things, I would make connections with people and stuff like that. But now is really like the time that I've seen the most growth. I've seen just a big change in how I make content, and just I think
Yeah.
that's a really good thing for me. I'm really fortunate for all of the new growth that I've seen in 2021, and I'm hoping that can continue, for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I'm like really proud of like the success you've had like over the year. Like I mean, it took me 5 years to get like to like 200 subscribers, and you did it like that, and I'm really happy for you. Like
Thank you, man.
that's
I
not, that
appreciate
sounds
that.
bitter. That sounds bitter as hell. But I mean that.
Well, I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
mean, to kind of just get 200 subscribers, it's just to have 200 people out there, and now a little over 300 as
Yeah.
of the time of
Yeah,
this
you
recording.
yeah, you did surpassed me in like 3 months. Like, and I'm happy for you because like you do like you have like this ethic that I see, like along with like creators like Luke Jackson and Jake, that like is honestly very admirable. Like, because the thing is like, and while you are late to the YouTube party, I actually have a couple friends who started a YouTube rap group like forever ago on Instagram that just transferred over into YouTube, and they've been getting some mega successes. So like, it's never too late because those two, like not those two, those three, and Luke on Demand were very like formative for me in like how I wanted to make content. Just because like I saw their work ethic and everything, and I knew them personally, so it's like very kind of I guess inspirational. So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
while I'm not like a comedic person in general, I can crack a couple jokes here and there. I think what struck me most is like their quality, along with the just work ethic behind all of that. It's just very admirable, and I wanted to do that for my channel, but it's just been hard because of all the stuff going on in my life personally, and just trying to keep up with it, and also keep up with the channel, and keep up with my grades, my girlfriend, like all these different things, you know?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. No, and I think it's great that, you know, you just kind of just see what your peers are doing, and it's just like, you know, you're just kind of in awe. Like, to your point, Luke, I think is an incredible
Yeah,
creator, and
no,
the fact that he
Lucas.
only
Oh,
has 550 something subscribers is just really a shame
it
because,
is.
the amount of like time he pours into his videos. I mean, it's the running joke he doesn't like editing, but I mean, he just does a great job with just like picking the content that he wants to focus on, even like the skit episodes, like of course
Oh
the
my
vlog channel,
god.
election, just like those like kind of off kilter kind of not music related things are
I
just as
fucking.
interesting and amusing as when he does music things. Like again, I think it's no surprise to a lot of people that he kind of comes off as like the music version of Scott the Woz. He really just kind of has that similar dry, cynical wit that really is hard to kind of emulate, to kind of find humor
Mhm.
in. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just the way that those two find humor in things is just amusing to me.
It is, because. And the thing is like, he's not like a Scott the Woz ripoff. He has, like, a linear story, which, Scott doesn't. He also has, like, this. I would say, like, what I've noticed with Luke at least is his humor is a lot more um cynical than Scott the Waz's.
Yes, I would tend to agree.
I would say cynical, and I don't know. Like I always go back to like the vlog episode anytime I ever like feel down because it cracks me up. Like him with his freaking roommate. I can't. It's too good. It's just
Yeah, I'm
hysterical.
just I'm just so excited to see where the whole plot of season one goes, and I think he reminds me a lot of. There's another YouTuber out there. Shout out my buddy Aiden. Where you at, Aiden? He makes videos as Dappy. I don't know if you know his channel, but he's a great creator. Sort of has a similar sort of linear, um, like I guess pattern in his videos. Like he tells stories for each of the seasons. I don't know when Dappy season three is going to drop, but he does like animation and stuff, and it's a really cool, concept for a channel. So anybody who's looking to kind of see something similar to Luke on Demand, definitely check out Dappy's channel. He does sort of like just normal, just like everyday slice of life type of stories, and he also does like occasional video essays. I know I first discovered him through his music video essay on Igor. He's also done a video on like Space Jam, Lego Star Wars. So he's definitely very prolific and he knows what he's talking about. And I'm very excited to see where he goes with his content.
Yeah, and because I found Luke before I found Jake, like it was kind of weird because like Jake was kind of surprised that I found him after like Luke, because he was like, oh, like, my channel's like bigger. I'm surprised you didn't find Luke for me. And I was like, nah, man, I literally found Luke's channel in my feed when he had less subscribers than I did. Like that was kind of the same situation with Mike the Snare and I. Like I know Mike the Snare technically,
Oh, how do you know him?
cause I found him when he had 75 subscribers. I had more subscribers than him, and I followed his like personal Instagram account
Oh,
forever
wow.
ago, and like I forgot that like he followed me for a bit, and then I think yeah, he still followed me. And then like I messaged him like 3 years later on his personal account. I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot I followed you." So I said, "I forgot you followed me," and he just goes, "Oh shit, yeah, I forgot you did. I forgot I did too." And then like I thought he was gonna like block me then and there, but he just accepted my request back into his account. So I was like, "Oh, so he's a chill boy."
Yeah, no, and he's a great creator too. Even just like watching his videos and just kind of getting an idea for what I wanted to do for myself. I think his quick review bash review videos are kind of similar to like what a month in review is.
Yeah, I see
I don't think
that.
that's a bad comparison. But no,
No.
to your point, Jake was like I saw, of course the caretaker video, the one and only caretaker video.
Yeah.
And I just sort of reached out to him. I'm like, hey, I love this video. Would you want to come on my podcast? That was actually one of the last episodes that I had done. And he was a great guy. And then we kind of just talked on and off. He introduced me to some of his music friends, and then I met Luke and Jackson shortly thereafter, and
Oh my
they're all
gosh,
a
man.
great bunch of guys, and I'm really fortunate to kind of be in their circle, if I could even call it that.
Yeah.
They're just really wholesome guys, and I'm glad that we all kind of have a great thing going together.
Yeah, and like technically, I'm kind of like getting into that circle, sort of, just because
I
I've
mean,
been
like
like,
I'm not even saying like I'm like ahead of you or anything. We're
yeah,
both in similar situations. We're both in that circle, so it's like we're both in similar spots YouTube wise, but it's just great to kind of be able to watch each other grow and support each other and
yeah.
give each other feedback on videos, whatever it may be.
Now, like even with like all the five of us, and I would say the six of us, including Dell Nelson, um, we
Shout out
all,
Dell.
I love Dell. Like, is it six of us? Wait, hold on, let me count this up.
Yeah, no, it's six.
It is six. Okay, I was making sure. I didn't want to like forget anyone. Um,
Right.
cause like a six, I see. It seems like we all kind of have like an understanding of what we do, and like we don't like put each other down or like up on a pedestal or anything. It's just kind of like we're all chill with each other. Like that's the thing I love about Jake in particular. Like Jake, even with like this like massive following that he has from like that one caretaker video, and just like his channel himself having like 70,000 subscribers and everything, he is the most laid back and like most easy to contact person I know. Like I contacted him like about like a collab and stuff about like getting on a podcast and everything, and like within minutes he was like, "Oh yeah, I've listened to your podcast. It's great. Let's do it." And I was like, what?" Like what?
Yeah, no, I just feel like, and even this is just something I've learned, over the years from just like doing interviews. It's just like if you ask people, like chances are they're not usually going to say no. It's just like if you expect people to come to you and just accept it, it's just like that doesn't really work out. But even if you just get nothing back, it's just like, okay, I tried it, I did what I could. But just like in the chance that you get somebody to come on your channel, it's just like that means a lot. It's very exciting. Even like going back to what we talked about earlier with the rough criminal interview, like I was not expecting him to reply to that email that I sent him at all. I was just like,
Yeah.
hey, I love your channel. Would you be down to do an interview over Zoom sometime? And he's like, oh yeah, I looked through your blog. You've interviewed some really cool people. Happy to be in that same scape. So yeah, sure,
Oh
let's do something. So I was
yeah.
like, you never know what can happen unless you ask. Just take a
Yeah.
shot.
Exactly. One shot, one opportunity, The whole motto.
Absolutely.
It's like with me at least, I've never like called these discussions with people interviews because I'd rather make them a discussion than anything. Because I think interview is kind of stupid because I feel like it's one sided. You know? That's just
I
for
mean,
me.
I sort of, I mean, you've seen some of my interviews. Like,
Yeah.
I used to be very like by the book. Like, I would just ask the questions, not really like add much follow up. So like, even again, we're talking about the rough criminal movie. Good lord, it's just
It's
I ask him
all
a
full
question.
circle, yeah.
No, it's meta right now. I hate to just talk about this one interview because there are just so many incredible people that I've interviewed that I could talk about here as well. But it's just like, you know, just asking a question about like, where the name come from ends up talking about like our favorite movies for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like stuff like that. That is why I feel like with my interviews, I try to make them kind of a question and then just listen to what they have to say and play off of that and see where
Yeah.
it goes. I think that honestly leads to better results in an interview than just I don't know, the very like clean cut professional interviews you see on like TV or just on bigger channels, I suppose.
Yeah, it's way more authentic, I'd say, because like you're just like branching off of something and like finding common ground interest and like basing your like conversation off of that would lead to a lot more just I guess entertaining content, I'd say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's my methodology because I never have anything planned when I like do these. I just kind of like, yeah, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do an intro, have one question planned, and then just see where it goes.
Interesting, interesting. No, I kind of feel like I sort of again I do very classic kind of questions. I feel like it's the very like basic like, oh, who are your influences, like how do you make a video, how do you make a song, what have been some of your favorite songs to have made over the years, if there were any songs you would delete, whatever it may be. But even then, like I was again another person I was influenced by was Nardwar. Like I just watch his interviews.
Uh,
I'm just blown away at how that man just like knows everything about um just a random celebrity. I just think that's really cool. And every time I do an interview, I try to like. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm not going to spoil my methodology because I don't want anybody
to steal
copying
your
my secret
formula.
formula. Right. Well, technically, I'm stealing somebody's formula too. So who's to
Mm,
say?
the plagiarism train. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, don't worry. I'm not the police or anything, but like, I just like being open in general with just a bunch of different stuff. And I like just expressing that through discussion because I find that like the form of human conversation to be pretty like epic, like when like you get down to the basics. Because like if two people have like a common interest, I think it's like really cool to see how like that can build into something.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's just like how my like psychological like brain just being like, ooh, that's kind of funny or whatever.
Yeah. No, and I think it's really been hard with all of us being, virtual more or
Oh
less
my
for the
god, yeah.
past like almost year and a half. It was crazy because I was in a class and then somebody like did a presentation. It was a really interesting statistic kind of about like just how much is lost when you're online. It's like there was like a study done where it's like 55% of conversation is just what we're doing right now, like facial expressions, verbal, nonverbal cues. And I thought that was like really interesting because I feel like it even just kind of relates to cancel culture too. It's just like, just for something you said online, like you don't understand like the tone of voice someone's using, right? It's like something you said on Twitter, like, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago could be read as such, but it could also be read in like three different ways by like three different people. You know what I mean?
Oh god, yeah.
But when you're in person talking like directly like this, it's like you can understand somebody's motive, why somebody is saying what they're saying. So I feel like that's been really hard with people being virtual. It's why you've seen a lot of like crazy things going on social media, and
Yeah,
I don't even know how to describe it. It's just crazy to feel
because
like
I because I believe we've all seen the tweets made by James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy fame, and
I have not actually.
well, the jokes were like very very crass and very like pedophilic, I'd say, and to a certain degree, but they were jokes after all, and I don't think people realized that because it was tweeted in like 2008. I think it was about like
Yeah,
just
exactly. It's like that's the joke.
Justin
It's like
Bieber or whatever.
yeah, it's like people like starting like beef over something that happened on Twitter like 12 years ago. I think you have to consider, even in the last year, I feel like humor has changed so much with like all of the social change that's happened. A lot of things that used to be, I guess, socially acceptable are no longer acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm very happy that we live in a country where, you know, social change is happening. But I feel like, you know, are people going to be held accountable for things that were said in a different age? I guess, you know,
Yeah,
like let's
because
just say like I tweeted something 6 years ago and that just somehow came out. Is that really going to define my legacy for the next 60, 70 years of my life? Am I just going to be this terrible person? I don't know.
because the thing is like when I watch stuff like comedy from like the '90s and stuff, when they could just say whatever they wanted to say, or like listening to like a song from Eminem off of the Marshall Mathers LP. Like it was a different era when you could just say like slurs left and right and barely
Oh,
get any trouble
absolutely.
for it.
Have you seen Eddie Murphy's Raw?
Like I've not actually.
Oh my God, it's from Reagan America, 19
Who?
something. And this dude, I mean, it is one of the funniest comedic routines I have ever seen in my life. It is literally, the name speaks for itself. It is raw. It is just humor that would not even fly today. It's just so ridiculous to see like how like things that are just like now like, oh, don't say this, don't say that, are just like commonly just like thrown out into the audience, and it just gets like laughs. It's just like that's like acceptable.
Yeah, that's just shows how like times have changed within like our society and like social cues. But like then you gotta ask like when is it too far? Like my mother has brought up to me like the whole potato head thing. Like you heard about like the
How they're
gender.
doing like the yeah, like the gender neutral one. I feel like if you have a problem with that, it's like why? You know what I mean? It's just like it's a very like it's a very like it's not really something to be offended about. Like for people who really don't have like an identity, right? Like if they don't identify necessarily as male or female, it's just like why not have something that makes me feel like I can be included and accepted in
Yeah.
society.
How about you have an option? For example, let's say there's Mr. Potato Head, Mrs. Potato Head, and Potato Head. Because I feel like instead of like cutting out like two different groups, because I feel like with Potato Head it's alienating two different audiences. The male and female, or and if people like don't identify with like I just add that to the list instead of like trying to like alienate others.
Absolutely,
That's the
yeah.
problem
No, it would
with.
be.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's the problem with like corporations and stuff. They're trying to appeal to like the LGBT community like that, or like different like social movement groups like Black Lives Matter and on like Asian like awareness and stuff, but they're not getting the message. It's not about like it's not that like how do I phrase this correctly? Because I feel as if they don't understand like that we don't want to be superior to other people.
No, yeah, I think that's a really interesting commentary on that. It's like we're not trying to, put like people who aren't like, you and me, just like straight white men, you know. We're
Mm-hmm.
we're not putting like gay people above us. Like nobody's superior to each other. We live in
No.
a society where we should be equal, we shouldn't have to feel like like you and me, it's like we'll never have to be discriminated against. We'll never have to drive in our cars, walk our streets without like fear that a police officer is gonna just like come out and attack us or kill us. It's just like we don't have to be taught like, hey, this is what to do when a cop shows up. You know what I mean? It's just like it's time for a change for tomorrow that's just
Mm-hmm.
way more inclusive and just understanding, because I feel like even right now I just don't like a lot of the activism that's happening. I feel like it's all really superficial and not really getting to the point. Like it's one thing to post like a zillion things on your Instagram story to like post awareness about every issue under the sun, but unless like you're actually contributing to that cause, I feel like your intentions don't really come off as good.
Yeah.
Like me, for example, I hate to make everything about me, but
It's good.
I did a music festival in the fall, and I didn't go to any like Black Lives Matter protests, rallies, whatever it may be, but instead I decided to make all the donations. I made it a nonprofit event, charitable, and I donated all of my money to Campaign Zero, which I don't know if you're familiar with, is
Yeah.
an organization working to end police and gun violence in the United States. Like I feel like personally that is much more effective than just posting things on a story, posting
Yeah.
a black picture on your Instagram feed and then deleting it 2 days later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I mean, I've signed protests. I've kept up with it. Like mainly my sort of activism is through like environmental awareness and through the Green New Deal. I've actually hosted like strikes and stuff. Like I've actually hosted protests like
Like
with
exactly, like you're
stuff like that.
knowledgeable about it enough to the point where it's like, hey, I'm gonna organize action. It's just like if you're there, are you really like doing? But you're like the one who's like putting it all together, which I think is like, again, activism in its own right.
I mean, if you're there, you're also doing something by like giving
Oh,
strength in numbers.
absolutely. And I'm not saying like you're not doing anything. I'm just saying it's like you have more like, you can say you did that. It's like you were an activist. Like you organized. I don't even know how many people were there, but like shit, it's like I did something for X amount of people, and we went against this organization. So I think that's great.
Yeah, like I
And
actually got
that is
into
like
my yearbook because of that. Like for like a political section, I talked about like politics for a bit, and then I also talked about like just the activism I did in like the local community, and that like they really liked that, so they gave me a little section.
yeah, that's incredible, man. Props to you. And I just feel like those kind of things speak way louder than just, you know, posting something on an Instagram story and feeling like you're okay. Even just companies now, like we see corporations like Ben and Jerry's, Patagonia, just we stand with the Asian community. It's just like they feel like they have to post something or else like they're not good enough. You know what I mean? Like I feel like what would be better is because they have so much power is like donate your time and resources rather than just like post something and just kind of hope it goes away.
Yeah, like
That's sort of my 2 cents on the issue. I don't know how you feel about that or
well,
if that's
with
even.
me at least, it's like whenever I bring up my like acts of like activism and everything, I don't want to like say it as if like like oh I'm better than this person or that person because of the certain actions I've made. I just say it because like I think it's just good to like express interest within like your country and like just show activism, like use your rights of protest and your rights of free speech, like to actually try and
Absolutely.
see if you can like make something of your own. I mean, there are some situations when I think corporations have done some good work. I think Ben and Jerry's have actually like been one of the better
I
ones
mean, they're
because
a great corporation. I'm well aware of that. Like I think what they do is great, but just posting something about it and just expecting that issue to go away just
I
doesn't
mean
really
the
sit well with
owners of
me.
Ben and Jerry's like have been to protests. They've like donated a lot of their own personal money. Like there's
Oh
actually
yeah, no, and that's all great. And even like their cannabis justice post was really
oh
interesting. I
yeah,
don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. Yeah. Like
I guess Ben and Jerry's was kind of a bad example. Just kind of,
yeah.
I was trying to think of like, okay, let's think. Companies that have posted something in the last like 60 days about something. Oh, Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah. I will tell you, the one that made me laugh the hardest which of the corporations was the NFL posting about Black Lives Matter when they fired Colin Kaepernick for kneeling during the national anthem as a form of
And that's
protest.
sort of that's also an issue of the time. It's crazy to think like 3 years ago it was like, oh my God, you kneel for the anthem, you're suspended. It's like now you see like people linking arms, you see them taking a knee, and it's like that's sort of celebrated, right? I mean, it's crazy to think even not only in the last like year, but even in the last like few, it's just like how social norms have become different.
I mean, I personally don't think that kneeling for the flag is disrespectful because it's a right to protest. It's peaceful protest, and it's bad. And yes, it's supposed. And because the thing about protest is it's supposed to grab your attention. It's supposed to be disrespectful. I believe that like protest has to have some like bitter taste in your mouth because to get someone's attention.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
whether that be through like I think like means of that and I because I'm all against like violent protesting so stuff like that where it kind of puts up like the middle finger without even causing any harm besides for like the little fragile like patriotism that some people have like it really just puts into perspective of a lot of different things because what Colin Kaepernick did while I wouldn't say it was like revolutionary it was definitely a bold stance and I think I respect him for doing that and putting his job on the line.
Right, absolutely. No, I think that's great. I can definitely see both sides of that argument. Like, if you were like from a military family, like I could understand like why you don't like people kneeling for the flag. Like, like that's kind of justified, but I'm for it at the end of the day. Like, if you like there's no, it's just kind of become ingrained in our
Because
tradition, and when someone like rejects what society tells us to do, it's like this big bad thing, and it really shouldn't be at the end of
I
the
don't
day.
think that kneeling for the flag is like disrespectful in the way that people think it is. Because people find it to be a disgrace to our military, like, oh, they serve for us. Like, it's not about the military, it's about our country as a whole. Whenever, like, our duty as citizens is to protect our rights and to, like, make the government what we need it to be. Like, that is what our rights are as American citizens.
Right.
And, like, so having like someone like protests like that may be seen as disrespectful, like kind of like in the same sense as flag burning. It's not disrespectful to the people who have served the country or to people like who have affiliated with like the country's pride and everything. It's about the system itself rather than the people
Absolutely,
within
yeah.
it. It's about like it's about like the whole entire picture as a whole because obviously this country is not perfect and most people like me for example I would rather see the country get better through harsh criticism than rather just blindly watch it all go down.
Right. Like this is again, it just goes back to what we're talking about. It's just like posting something on like, you know, an Instagram story or whatever it may be, just to kind of hope the issue goes away. It really doesn't solve the problem. But to your point, this harsh criticism, this rejection of what society tells us to do, these protests will get stuff done.
I actually remember on one of the essays I had to write, I wrote an essay for AP Lang, and the prompt was asking me like it was said like a quote that just said defiance is the heart of growth. And do you agree, disagree, or qualify those points?
That's an interesting quote. Wow.
Yeah. And I said, of course I agree, because obviously when you think about the Revolutionary War and the Civil Rights Movement, those literally harped on like defiance
Right, it's
against the
civil
oppressors.
disobedience. Yeah.
Yes, it's civil disobedience. Like during Revolutionary War, we were getting text, okay, F you, destroy your tea, start a war, we won. Civil rights movement, Rosa Parks, hey, I'm a Sikh here, no you're not, too bad, gets kicked off bus, starts a movement. Literally, stuff like that that spark from little events of protests that are initially non-harmful, but have had like such like lasting ripple effect in our society. Like I think protests like the Colin Kaepernick, like are pretty iconic in the way of like they're peaceful, but they have a lot of significant meaning behind it, you know? And like,
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like it's not like he's just doing it for shits and giggles. Like a friend of mine who's on the opposite end of the political spectrum pointed out, he's like, "Oh yeah, he just did it because he wasn't playing anymore, so he's just like looking for some way to get attention." I'm like, I don't really think that's really what he was doing there, but to each his own, to each
yeah,
his own.
yeah,
But no, that's
like,
a really interesting quote. Even going
oh
back to what
yeah,
you said about like Revolutionary War, Civil Rights Movement. I vividly remember, my family went to Detroit for a weekend because it's only like 3 hours from Cleveland, and we went to the Henry Ford Museum. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
yeah, okay,
but in there they have just like a bunch of like just different like historical pieces of just like pieces of history that makes more sense.
yeah,
And I remember they have like the exact bus that Rosa Parks sat on.
really,
Yes, it was in like there's just like a light on the seat she was sitting on. You just sit in it, and it's just like you get goosebumps.
wow, it's fascinating.
Just like something like that. Like you are literally like in a piece of history, and it's just like that to me. It's just very like surreal. It's just like you've heard about these things from your history textbooks, your history teachers, people on the internet, YouTube, wherever it may be, and then you're just there, just with it. It's just like it's a whole different experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, I understand that like entirely. Like that just sounds like something very impactful. Like I've been to like only like a few museums, like the Holocaust Museum I've been to, which that was very impactful, I'd say. Like in like seeing all like like the shoes and everything and all stuff like that, like the briefcases and stuff.
Absolutely.
Certain
Yeah,
events like
even
that.
like the Oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Also, I can't see you right now. Like you're
Uh,
frozen on my screen. I don't know if
that's
that's me or you.
big funny.
You just
Can
left.
you see me?
You just left, I think. Yes, I
All
can
right,
now.
cool,
Okay,
great,
that's
yeah.
perfect. So back to your point about museums. Sorry, you
So
can cut
like
there.
museums.
Got it.
No, wait, I gotta check the timestamp now. Flip, I'm gonna have to like, I'm gonna forget. I already had like one at 9. Okay, so that's 46. Got it. So, basically, it's just like with museums and everything. I think they're very important to like showing like history itself because obviously history should not be forgotten because we'll not learn off the same mistakes we had before. Like 100 years
Right.
ago, we had the
It's the
influenza
classic saying.
virus. and now look where we're at right now. And also like because history repeats itself, like wars and like different troubles and everything. Like I compared like the World War III, like possible happening in like the early 2020 to like the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, like in a way. I compared
Oh
stuff like
yes,
that.
Franz Ferdinand.
My favorite
No,
alt rock group
yeah,
from 2004. Yeah. Uh,
yeah, no. Franz Ferdinand's a great group. Speaking of which, if we want to shift from all this crazy political stuff back to music, no,
oh my god.
um,
I mean,
it's
I
crazy that
don't
it just.
mind I don't mind like shedding political opinions because like I think it's just good to express that. I'm definitely a
Oh,
listener
for
more
sure.
than
No,
anything.
I was just kind of, front. Yeah, I was just kind of, but I definitely respect that, man. That's great that we're being open and kind of having an honest conversation about that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, Franz Ferdinand really only known for one good album. Their sophomore album's also okay, but I think the self-titled is
Oh
really
yeah.
just an incredible record. One of my first like gateways into um I, I guess music as a whole, just like that kind of early 2000s alternative scene.
My first gateway into music, I'd say, was Linkin Park when I was like really young. I listened to like Linkin Park in
Interesting.
my formative years, and that just stuck with me. And like let me tell you, when I was 13 and when Chester Bennington died, that hit like a truck, dude. Like actually hit me. So because I listened to
Yeah.
him like Linkin Park in my childhood, like One Step Closer to the Edge, and I'm about to break. You know, like the whole like melodrama and like just the, it was just so fun. It was just a fun era, and like also like Nirvana and like people like that were very like influential for me at least. And then like found Pink Floyd when I was like 13, and then well,
Keeps
okay,
on going. Keep on going
yeah.
down the rabbit hole. No, shout out Nirvana though. Nevermind turns 30 this year. Also got to give a
Oh
special shout
God,
out to Steve Albini. I did an interview with him.
are you fucking
Very wow.
serious?
Yeah,
You,
no, I did an interview with him probably about this time 2 years ago.
Lord help me, dude. That's crazy. I didn't
Yeah, I
know
mean,
that
you
at
go
all.
through my blog, you see interviews that I've done. Like, you can see all the interviews I've ever done. That
I
one's
didn't
on
know
there.
about. I
It
did
was,
not know about that one.
yeah, no, it was definitely something. I mean, I had to schedule it through like somebody that worked at his office, and then like he wouldn't call me on my phone, so I had to like set up my voicemail to record it because I mean, how else was I supposed to like? I wasn't gonna like feverishly write down everything and then like recall it later. So I just told him like, hey, and like it was so funny. It's like, please enter voicemail password. It was like going on for like 2 minutes while the interview was starting. I'm like, uh, tell you what, here, call me back at this number. And he's like, okay. And I don't know. I feel like that was just one of those interviews where I just don't think he wanted to be there. He was just kind of doing it. He's just a very dry sort of guy. I don't know if that's just his overall demeanor or just how he was feeling that day, but whatever the case, it was definitely a cool interview to kind of hear about his involvement with bands like Nirvana. I think he did work with like Low, who's a really great shoegaze band from
Yeah.
Minnesota. Cloud Nothings from Cleveland. That was actually the first interview I ever did was with Cloud Nothings, and I remember the lead singer talking about their work with Steve Albini on their debut, which was really cool.
And like also like his work with Big Black and shit.
Yeah, but that was like his own band, or was it Shellac? I can't remember which band it was his, or if they're both.
I think they're both.
I think that's what I thought. Like I was trying to remember, but like, yeah, no, he's a big figure there in Chicago. Chicago's just, I feel like an honestly a pretty underrated music city.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great artists from there, not only from the rap scene, but I think you have to consider, you know, classic rock acts. Of course, you've got Chicago, you've got Cheap Trick, and even recently with Jamila Woods, she's incredible. You've got Whitney, a really awesome folk duo,
Oh, I love Whitney.
and
Yeah.
even yeah, Whitney's great. I don't know, I just feel like they don't really like get a lot of like mainstream recognition. I think they're an incredible band. I'm really glad that they're playing at Lollapalooza. I don't know if you saw the
Yeah,
list
I did
of artists
actually.
that have.
I did.
Yeah, no, it's incredible for them. It's crazy to think that they're from a city like that and they're making that deep of music. But I don't know. I just feel like as a whole, like Lollapalooza is just it's a really like overrated event. Like I've never been, to be fair, but if you're dropping like $400 for a 4-day pass, you gotta buy a hotel downtown, right? Because it's like it's impossible to get into the city. It's like the subways are jam packed, so it's like you can't really drive, so you kind of have to be like, hey, we have to stay here. Not include. I mean, you're dropping like $1,500 to $2,000 for like a weekend. Like that to me just doesn't seem worth it. Like I would much rather see these individual artists in like a concert venue and kind of just go from there. Like I feel like it'd be
Yeah.
cheaper and I'd probably have a better time than like being like ass deep in people in the middle of a field on a hot August day. Not exactly my cup of tea.
I love festivals personally, but I understand that exactly. Like, festivals, like, my first concert I went to was a festival. Like, I saw Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, like, some pretty interesting groups. And then, like, the next year I saw, like, I think I saw, what I saw, Billy Idol. Um, I saw Judas Priest. Like, a lot of, like, rock
That was probably
groups.
an interesting experience.
Oh my god, Judas Priest was actually really good.
No,
um,
I bet it's just like it feels, it's a metal group, so you probably get like it runs the gamut of fans.
oh my gosh, I love metal. Like, I am a giant metal fan. So like I can hit a pit, all right.
That's fair, man. That's
besides my
fair.
besides my very clean cut look, I am an animal when it comes to mosh pits, I'd say. So
Fair enough. Fair
yeah,
enough. But I don't know. I just prefer like more intimate concert experiences. Like,
mhm.
I've been really fortunate to cover a few concerts with the Bazz Reviews brand. I remember the first show I saw was with Alado Negro like 2 years ago. He was here in Cleveland. Like, I just asked his manager, like, "Hey, would it be possible to do an interview before the show?" And he's like, "No, we're not doing press, but if you want like tickets to the show, we're happy to get you some." So that was like the first experience I ever had. I got to meet him before the show. Really nice guy. But it's just like it's crazy because we got there like so early with a buddy of mine and myself, and we ended up being like a foot away from the stage. Like that to me is just such an incredible experience.
Yeah.
Like just like being there in that moment, sharing it with so many other people who also appreciate this music. In a standing room only venue, it's like it's impossible to move around. I really appreciate that more than a festival. But again, that's just my personal preference, and
Let me tell you, like some of my
I,
best experiences are
hoping
at
to
like
go to a
small
festival someday.
venues.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Let me tell
Yeah,
you, like the
absolutely.
best like experience I've ever had like in a concert were in like small venues. Like I would like there was like this one place in town where I got to see like a bunch of local groups like Prosper, and man, like they hit like the mosh pits would open up. There's like only like 100 people there, and like we just all be like yeah. Like it was great.
Yeah,
That was
no,
before COVID, so
right, exactly. No, but it's exciting to see, you know, live music coming back. Of course, we just mentioned Chicago and all these music festivals. I know Pitchfork Festival's coming back. The lineup for that looks great. Riot Fest looks pretty solid. It's like I guarantee you, it's like all of these like lineups are going to be like some of the best they've ever had because it's like nobody's been to live music in the year. So they're like, fuck
yeah.
yeah, let's get everybody on the bill.
Yeah, just like go big or go home because like you have like it's been like the world's been rocked by like this giant health crisis, so might as well try to redeem like themselves, I guess.
Yeah, literally. It's like everybody's like, I'm sure if you asked any band, it's like, oh yeah, we want to start playing again. Yeah, we want to start playing again. Yeah, no, it's a great experience. I'm fully vaccinated now, very excited about that,
Yeah.
and just excited to see where the state of like live music goes.
Yeah.
Like I know Chicago, like they have the Vax Pass thing coming in. It's like, you can get access to all these crazy concerts if you're fully. So I think it's definitely some great incentives that come with it.
Very, very true. And I'm gonna end it on that positive note because I think it's always good to end on a upbeat note. You don't want to like have a downer ending. So
Absolutely. No,
yeah, definitely got to thank Baz for coming on. Like, great to talk with you just for a bit, honestly.
absolutely, man. Thank you for having me on again. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you're still watching, give Nicholas I don't even know what I'm saying. Give him a subscription because he's great. I love his videos, and I know you will too. Appreciate the time, man.
Babe. Anyway. Anyway, thank you for your listening, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace.
Cheers. Have a good one.